Hello historians! Today we are going to be continuing looking at the Middle Ages and I will explain a little bit more about that. So our focus today is what were the Middle Ages like and how did it impact on medicine and health. So for your Do Now task today, what I would like you to do is to see if you can jot down anything you can remember at all from your studies in Key Stage 3 about the Middle Ages. So just see if you can have a bit of a brain dump and then come back once you've finished. Okay, so for some of us, we might not remember exactly what the Middle Ages are, or we might not know what the meaning is. You might also know the Middle Ages as the medieval era. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview. What we're going to be doing in the next few lessons is looking at each of the individual time periods that we look at in medicine to help us have an overview and give us a bit of a head start on understanding those different times and how it would have impacted on health and medicine. So the first one we're going to look at is the Middle Ages. Now that goes from around the year 500, and when you see this, when it says C500, that basically means around the year 500, because we're not going to give specifics, but the Middle Ages are around the year 500 to about 1500. We then move into what's known as the early modern period or the Renaissance. Again, those are interchangeable. The whole time period is called the early modern period, but during this time period the Renaissance happened. Similarly with around 1700, about 1750 to be exact, to 1900 is the Industrial Revolution, but that encompasses the 18th and 19th centuries. And then we move into what's known as the modern era, so after 1900 up to present day. It's currently known as the modern era, but who knows, that might change as history moves on. So what I would like you to do, please, is just to jot down this timeline so that you have a really good understanding of what each of the different time periods are. We today are looking specifically at the Middle Ages, but we will be looking at the others moving on. You might also like to add information about what centuries are here. So remember, the centuries are one above the numbers. So for example, the 1500s are the 16th century. So you might like to add that in. So here we've got from the 10th century through to the 15th century, then the 16th century to the 18th century, 18th century to 19th century, and this is the 20th and 21st century around here. If you'd like to challenge yourself, you could add any existing knowledge that you have about these time periods, so any things that happened during this time period. So pause here, jot down this timeline, and then come back ready for the next task. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do today is have a quick quiz on what you already know about the Middle Ages. So pause, answer these questions, and then come back and we will go through the answers. Okay, so hopefully you have had a go and you have written down what you think the answers are. We're going to go through them now, so be ready to mark your answers and change them if you need to. So, true or false? It is false that people did not wash or tried to keep clean. Lots of people did, but they didn't have necessarily the technologies or the knowledge that we have now to be as thorough about it. It's true, you could be fined for throwing rubbish in the street, and people did believe that God sent diseases. Question number 2, the Christian church was A, very influential. Question number 3, It was B, the bishops and the local priests who controlled education. Question number 4. The king's 2 biggest duties are A, defending the country, and C, keeping law and order. Improving people's health was not very high on his checklist at all. Question number 5. Ideas and knowledge spread largely through people talking to each other. Now, the reason for this is because the vast majority of people during the Middle Ages could not read. Unless you were landed gentry, unless you were very posh, very well-to-do, it is unlikely that you could read or write. And question number 6, which of these statements best fits the way people thought, is A. Many people believed that they should respect traditional ideas, especially what is written in the Bible, and that links to question number 2 really on how influential the Christian church was. So I'd like you please to think about what that suggests about life in the Middle Ages. How might that impact on medicine, all of these ideas? Okay. So make sure that you have ticked those answers if you got them correct, change them if you got them wrong, and give yourself a score out of 7, 8, 9, 10. Give yourself a score out of 10. Okay, your task now is using the information that is linked on your Show My Homework. You are going to create your own 1-page overview of life in the Middle Ages. Now, we're going to create a 1-page overview of each of the time periods that I spoke about earlier to help you to understand why there were changes and what the changes were that happened to do with health and medicine in those time periods, because the context of the stuff that's going on at the time is what drives those changes. So in your 1-page overview, you need to include information on the church, the king and government, work, living conditions, education, and any other interesting facts that you can find. You must ensure, please, that your work is neatly presented. You include detailed information, but important information. You only have 1 page to do this, so you need to decide what is the most important information for you to include and how you're going to present that. And I would also like you, please, and this is the most important bit, to think about how that might impact on medicine and health. So if not many people can read, how does that impact on medicine? If people believe that God sent diseases, how does that impact on medicine and health and what people know? Okay? So you are going to complete your 1-page overview, and if it does end up being 2 pages, it's not the end of the world, but it's all about having the most important information for you to refer back to in Year 10 and Year 11. You are going to complete that in whatever way works for you. So it could be a PowerPoint, it could be written on paper, it could be a Word document. It's completely up to you. You are going to try and wow me. I want to see some amazing, amazing work here. And to do that, you might like to carry out some extra independent research. So you can look on places like BBC Bitesize. You could Google information to try and find me some interesting knowledge. I'd really like you to try and find me something I don't already know. And then, if you'd like to challenge yourself once you've completed that, you are going to explain why there was little change in medicine during the Middle Ages. You need to complete your work and then submit it either on Show My Homework, or you can email that to me. Good luck!